Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining our information session today for occupational health and safety. My name is Mashur Chaudhry, and I am the manager of recruitment and sales for the Chang School. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the land on which Toronto Metropolitan University is built upon. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. I thank the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island for their efforts to protect the land, and I deeply regret the past injustices they have endured. As Toronto Metropolitan University seeks to move forward in partnership with Indigenous peoples, I pledge to foster an environment that is more inclusive and welcoming of Indigenous peoples from all communities. Now, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's session. Your microphone is muted throughout the event so as not to disturb other attendees or presenters. For the hearing impaired, we have automated captioning available, which you can access by activating it in the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. And you can submit your questions for today's speakers at any time by typing them into the question box of the control panel. We'll collect them throughout the session and address them at the end of the presentation. Now, I'd like to introduce our presenters and speakers for today. Chun Yip Hun, the academic coordinator of the certificate at the Chang School, Melissa Caruso, instructor of the certificate, and then we have Janet Holt, who's a recent graduate of the certificate and health and safety vice president at Hydro One as well. Now, additionally, we also have Sandra and Abby from our client services team who will advise on questions as well. Now, before I'd like to invite our academic coordinator to provide a brief overview, we'll do a quick poll just to see what are your goals and motivations to consider the certificate. You know, what motivated you to consider it? We've got career change, career advancement, skill building for a current role, personal interest, and others. Yeah, so we'll just leave that up for just a few seconds for everybody to answer, and then we'd go into the presentation. So it looks like we've got career change that's leading, followed by career advancement, and then skill building for a current role, which is great to see because it's consistent with our other info sessions before, and that helps our speakers today to continue the conversation. So we'll end the poll and share the results here for a bit. And as you can see, that's career change leading the way. Thank you all for taking part in that poll. I'd now like to introduce and invite our academic coordinator, Chun, to provide a brief overview of the certificate and share how it can help you develop the skills you need to advance our career. Go
Okay,
ahead.
great. Thank you very much, Mash. If we can go to the next slide. So just to let you know, within the Occupational Health and Safety Certificate program at the Chang School, there's actually three different certificates. The first one is the Occupational Health and Safety Certificate, or OHS. As you can see on the left-hand side, there are 8 courses altogether and takes approximately 2 years, and it's fully online. Afterwards, you can take one of two options in terms of additional certificates. One being the Occupational Health and Safety Leadership, OHSL, which is 4 courses in that, and that's approximately 1 year to complete, and that's also online. Or the Advanced Safety Management, ASM, which includes 8 courses, and that's 2 years in length, and that's also online. So if you are starting out in this certificate program, we ask that you complete the OHS certificate first. And then if you choose to proceed onwards with additional certification in terms of obtaining more certificates, you can either choose the Advanced Safety Management or the Occupational Health and Safety Leadership one. Okay. Next slide, please. So in terms of some of the issues that we're facing from a health and safety perspective, one of the things is related to adoption of new technology, AI being probably the most of pressing issue at this moment in time. How does this impact health and safety workers? How does this impact their mental health? Are there any technologies that we can adopt that will improve the workplace? So these are all things worth considering. On that note, we talked about mental health. So this is a growing problem across the board, regardless of industry. Certainly, we need to address this so that people are going to work in a right state of mind. Uh, as you know, a lot of people do work from home as a result of the COVID pandemic. This is still the case even afterwards. And so just because you work from home and you're doing work for an employer does not mean that you forego health and safety. It actually should undergo the same rigors of doing an inspection and assessment for hazards as with any other workplace. Then there's harassment and workplace violence, which unfortunately is increasing as well. And harassment and workplace violence can lead to mental health, so these things are interrelated. Musculoskeletal disorders are one of the largest occupational disease categories, again, across the board. So these are things that health and safety professionals can help to address. Um, as a result of the pandemic, a lot of things are now being taken place on a virtual level. And this includes OHS training or occupational health and safety training. So one of the things is to see how effective the virtual training is relative to in-person training. PPE stands for personal protective equipment. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that acronym. One of the challenges with PPE is that people don't necessarily use it properly or they don't use it at all. And so these are things that employers are challenged with in terms of ensuring that people are using it properly, wearing it properly, et cetera, et cetera. So there are improvements in PPE training is definitely required. And then a lot of workplaces, even though they're requesting people to come back to the workplace, they don't necessarily have a dedicated workspace. So there's a lot of shared workspaces that are happening, and so this goes into issues about privacy, whether or not they can concentrate, et cetera, et cetera. So certainly there are issues related to this particular aspect where health and safety policy might be important to have. Next slide, please. So in terms of your career path options, just letting you know that in the province of Ontario, workplaces are legally required to develop an occupational health and safety policy and then put this into practice. And so this is why it's important that almost every segment of the different industry sectors requires health and safety. And so you can be in the public sector or the private sector, and this includes construction, which is one of the most dangerous workplaces. Similarly, heavy industry such as mining and forestry is also quite dangerous workplaces. Hospitals are another area where health and safety would be beneficial, as are universities and other educational institutions. Airports are a bit tricky because they're actually federally regulated workplaces, but they are based in various provinces. So the challenge there is that you're dealing with two different sets of legislation and in turn, two different sets of workforces, those who are federal employees and those who are provincial employees. And then obviously government and other public sectors could also benefit by health and safety knowledge. Next slide, please. So in terms of the various job titles, what we did was we just looked at different job websites and just came up with a list of some of the job titles that our graduates can consider pursuing. On the left-hand side are the more junior positions, so after you finish your certificate education. And then on the right-hand side, something for more senior individuals. So on the left-hand side, you can be an assistant, a technician, a coordinator, advisor. And on the right-hand side, you're looking at manager, vice president, a compliance officer, or a director. Okay. Next slide, please. So in terms of some of the things our certificate offers is that the instructors all have industry experience, and we always ask them to share the knowledge with the students so that they understand some of the theory and how that theory is applied. It's also very flexible learning in the sense that you go at your own pace. Everything is asynchronous. And so you decide as to when you're going to do the readings, when you're going to participate, et cetera, et cetera. And then after completion of the three certificates, you are eligible for professional designation, which I'll talk to you a little bit later. Um, and depending on the course, we do offer some intensive course options, meaning that you complete one course in 1 week's time. So 5 business days, you would be able to complete the course, but it is a full day for every one of those days that you are to participate in that class. As I mentioned about designations, if you complete all three certificates, you'll meet the educational requirements of the Board of Canadian Registered Safety Professionals, or BCRSP, and then you can write the exam to become a Canadian Registered Safety Professional, or CRSP, which is one of the highest designations for a health and safety professional in this country. If you complete just the first certificate, that's the OHS certificate, that allows you to challenge the CRST requirements, the CRST being the technician. So it's a precursor to the CRSP, and it's one of the relatively newer designations here in Canada. And certainly, if you take the more advanced certificate or the OHS leadership certificate, that could lead to management and leadership roles down the road as well. Next slide, please. And so that's it for my blurb today about the three certificates. This is the email address for Mash, who is facilitating the session. And then I will pass it back to Mash to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you so much, Chun, and thank you for that insight on all three certificates and how multi-sectoral they can be and what are the some of the insights we can understand if we take the certificates. Thank you for sharing that. Next, we'll turn to Melissa Crusoe, an instructor of the certificate here at the Chang School. Marissa brings over 12 years of experience as a health and safety business partner at a major grocery chain. Welcome, Melissa.
Thanks so much, Mash. I appreciate it. So yeah, as Mash said, I'm Melissa Crusoe. I'm in a contract lecturer at the Chain School, so I'm an instructor. Just to give you a little bit background about me and how I got into the field. So I have an undergraduate degree in human kinetics from the University of Windsor and a post-degree diploma in occupational health and safety management. So one of the reasons that I got into teaching is because I really wanted to share my knowledge and experience that I had in the field with others. I found that that's how I learned best when I took my courses in occupational health and safety. So I'm very passionate about this program in the Chang School. I think it really provides students, to allow them to bridge the gap between theory and practice. It offers students hands-on experience that will mirror what you encounter in the job in the field. So it will prepare you to understand the concepts, regulations, legislation, etc., so that you can confidently apply them. And so it really does give you that hands-on experience because, as Chen mentioned, the instructors that are in the certificate programs are industry professionals. So it really allows us as instructors provide that experience that we have, the scenarios that we endure every day. And it really allows us to share that knowledge with our students so that when they go into the field, they can confidently apply the regulations and legislations in the various scenarios that they'll have in the field. So that's why it's a really great program. So some of the courses that I teach or I have is physical agents, and then also teaching OHS leadership and ethics, which is in the OHS leadership program. And it just really focuses on making sure that we're making the best decisions as health and safety professionals. And then just to add to that, I do also have my Canadian Registered Safety Professional designation since 2018. So these programs really allow students, if they do wish to pursue those designations, such as the CRST and the CRSP that Ken mentioned, it really does provide that opportunity as well, which is great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Melissa, for sharing your journey and knowledge with us. It really does make us a little bit more confident about not just the sector, but all of the certificate programs and the courses. So now I'd like to welcome Janet, a student of the certificate who's a graduate and also a vice president of health and safety at Hydro One with over 25 years of experience. Welcome, Janet.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Mash, and very happy to be here today and to share my experience. So I'll just give a little bit of background on my sort of career or my journey into health and safety, because given the poll at the very beginning and the interest in people making a career change. So when I started working now almost 26 years ago, I actually started in human resources. I then went into operations for about 12 years. And then 5 years ago, I moved over into health and safety. I live in Peterborough, Ontario, with my husband, and I have two teenage sons as well. And so when I entered my career into health and safety, I wanted to learn more. I also had a desire to get the designation as well, so which is why I enrolled in the Occupational Health and Safety program. And what I really liked about the program was that because it's online for the most part, you can do it while working full time, while having a family, and doing all of those different things that come with life. And I was able to really integrate it into my life and complete the program. Now, I did complete the program in 12 months, so over 3 semesters, which is probably a little aggressive. But what I did is I did take advantage of some of the intensive courses that are offered. So the intensive courses run sort of a Monday to Friday, full days for the entire week. And I did complete 2 of the courses by doing the intensive, and then the remaining 6 I did online. The nice part about the online courses is you really do have a lot of flexibility. You're given windows of when assignments are due and when tests need to be done. And even doing group assignments, you're able to do that all virtually, which was great because it allowed me to be able to continue working, continue supporting my family, while also getting the education at the same time. So that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about the program. And the teachers were all fantastic, as Melissa said. They all come from the industry. They truly understand and have that great working knowledge of the curriculum. And they were all amazing and very, very supportive. I will be honest, I'm obviously a little bit older, so it was a little different coming back to school after so many years. I completed my degree over 25 years ago, so I was coming back in. But it was amazing the different people that you get to meet and all different ages, all different backgrounds. But everyone was extremely welcoming, and it was a very, very beneficial program for me. And the information that I've now taken back to my organization has been invaluable. So it was a very positive experience for me. And I'm very grateful that I completed the program. So thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Janet, for sharing your story with us. We truly appreciate you being a strong champion of the certificate, but also, sharing your perspective about how you were able to do that while working full time and also being there for your family. So thank you for sharing that. So that ends our presentation portion of today's session. Now we'll open up the floor for Q&A, and please enter your questions by typing them into the question box of the control panel. We've got a few questions that are already in here. So the first one is from Asma Sharif. Thank you, Asma, so much for your question. With the program being online, how does it provide hands-on learning? Any aspect of the program, is it in person, or I guess we can speak a little bit about what type of learning are we providing?
So I'll answer that and then maybe ask Janet to provide a specific example because I'm not familiar with all aspects of the courses. So it's not, I think that maybe the term hands-on might not be the appropriate term, and we don't mean to mislead you. What we're trying to say is that there are provisions of scenarios that are work related that allow you to apply the knowledge of the theory that is given in class. So that's what we mean by some practical knowledge, I guess, if that's the way to explain it. So I will ask Janet maybe to provide a more a specific example because I'm not familiar with all the details of every course. So.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it was actually amazing some of the labs that you did, especially in the physical agents class, and some of the simulations that you're able to do virtually, and the technology that is there. So, for example, there was a lab that we did on hearing, and using the meters, and obviously it was a virtual meter that you're using, but you were able. It was in a simulated environment, and so you were still able to fully understand the concepts of the class and that type of thing. Also through the, some of the group projects that you would have to do as well, and case studies that you would have to do. That also sort of gave you not your typical hands-on, as in you're getting your hands onto something, but you're certainly able to apply your learning to real life situations and scenarios that you would encounter in the workplace.
Great. No, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Melissa, is there anything you'd like to add to that? Okay.
Sorry, trying to get off mute. No, like Janet mentioned, actually, I facilitate or instruct the physical agents course, and that's just one great example, because you can have that hands-on experience, right? Even though it's a simulated environment, you can definitely take what's in that simulation and apply it in the field, absolutely. And also just connecting, with others in the field as well, or like in your group as well. So just talking about different experiences in their workplaces. Some individuals may work in health and safety, so they may, bring some real life examples as well.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so jumping on to the next one, we've got a few questions here. Next is from Devin Fitzgerald. Thank you so much for your question. So Devin is saying that the reason for the career change is because he got injured, and is the field a good fit for someone who may have physical limitations now? So whoever wants to take
I
that.
can take that one, Mash. So absolutely, and that's not uncommon for somebody who has experienced an injury or a workplace incident, because then it really fuels a passion for getting into health and safety. So by all means, even with some physical limitations, health and safety, there are so many different options within the industry that you can do that would certainly be suitable for any physical limitations that you may have.
Great. Awesome. No, thank you. Thank you for providing that perspective, and hope that answered your question, David. Next question is, can you speak a little more about the options that are available for people working in HR full time, and what a realistic timeline would be for someone in that scenario to complete this?
Okay, so I'll answer and maybe ask for Janet's perspective as a student who, because she was working full time. But basically, we designed the courses so that it's you spend about 6 to 9 hours per week per course. So that means you have to, working with that value, you have to figure out whether or not you can take on 1 or 2 courses. I wouldn't recommend anything more than 2 courses per term, simply because it does take time. People learn at different paces, et cetera, et cetera. But that's how we typically design our courses. And then maybe Janet can speak to her experience as a student.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's different for everyone, and you have to be very realistic about, what your time requirements are, and, what life commitments you may have going on and that type of thing. The one thing, taking those intensive weeks, if that's an option for you, that does allow you to sort of, complete a course within 5 days. It is an intense week. Like, I'm not going to lie, it is a full week, and you need to be fully dedicated to it that week, but you are able to complete some of the classes that way. And then the rest of them are online. So do you need to be organized and on top of things 1000%, but you also have some flexibility in there for, windows for you're completing assignments and that type of thing. But it is a time commitment. So what I would say is, if you're unsure, I'd probably start with one, see how it goes, and then you can assess for future terms on whether you want to increase that or try one of the intensive, that type of thing. But it is certainly doable with managing work. You are busy, I'm not going to lie. You don't have a ton of your spare time is then doing studying in school, but you're able to fit it in amongst your life. But you do need to be realistic about what time you do have available.
Thank you so much, yeah, for providing that realistic perspective. I love the commitment and energy, but I know people do have a lot of things that they're juggling all the time. So thanks for providing that answer. Next question is, I do have experience outside of Canada in the OHS field, and do I still need to follow the path? Is there a specific recommendation for someone who has experience outside of Canada?
So it's a good question, and I'll answer it broadly. It doesn't have to be if you have experience in Canada or outside Canada. If you feel you have health and safety experience in any capacity, either even as a joint health and safety committee member or as an occupational health and safety coordinator, what you would need to do is to submit your background information in terms of a resume, as well as any certification that you have, even if it's from another country, another jurisdiction. And we'll look at it on a case-by-case basis to see whether or not you can bypass the OHS certificate, which is the first certificate, or bypass certain courses. It all depends on everyone, on your individual background. Having said that, if you studied outside of Canada but have health and safety experience, we do ask that you do take OHS 208, which is the Occupational Health and Safety Law course, because the legal requirements in Canada do differ from other jurisdictions. So you need that foundational piece in order to be successful in the remaining courses, because there's a lot of reference back to the legal requirements.
Awesome. Thank you. And just to piggyback off that, the next question is, are there case studies or real world scenarios based on Canadian workplaces or Canadian experience, I guess, in the course?
Yeah, so I can touch on that. Yeah, a lot of it is based on Canadian legislation and regulations, as well as Canadian examples as well. So that was definitely very prevalent throughout the course.
Awesome. Anything else anyone wants to add? Any specific scenarios or anything like that? Okay. All right. So next question is, how would this certificate compare to a bachelor in OHS? So a BASC in OHS, what would be the gaps in learning content?
Sure. So I will answer that. So our three certificates have been accredited by BCRSP, the Board of Canadian Registered Safety Professionals. So essentially, if you complete all three certificates, it would be considered equivalent to the Bachelor's of Applied Science, the undergraduate degree that we have in OHS at TMU. The difference is that the certificate program is done on a part-time basis, and it's at your own pace, and you have a longer period of time to complete. Whereas with a Bachelor's of Applied Science, it is a full-time program, and it's a shorter timeline to complete that degree as opposed to all three certificates. And it's not as flexible because of the fact that you are in person, and you it's more regimented in terms of your educational journey, I guess, if that's a way to put it. So.
Okay. Anyone want to add anything to that, or we move to the next one? Yeah. So next one is for someone who's pursuing a career in advertising and marketing, and wants to know if this can be a good way to switch. And then I'll just add one more to that, as someone who is seeking advancement and has a certificate in Institution of Occupational Safety and Health from England, and a diploma in OHS from a college in Canada. And is this program good enough for them to do something further in as a Bachelor of Science? So I know that's a big question. If you want
Yeah,
to
it's a very difficult question to answer without looking at the documentation supporting their education experience as well as their training. So again, if you do have experience, I suggest that you send us those documents if you do want to know whether or not you can bypass certain courses or bypass the OHS certificate altogether. It's really done on a case-by-case basis, so it's a very difficult question to answer regarding the transition from they want to go into advertising marketing or they want to.
They're currently in advertising and marketing, and they want to go
Right.
to
So
this.
that's a very interesting transition simply because there are ads related to occupational health and safety equipment or services. So if you have that background, that might give you a leg up in terms of helping organizations that do want to publish ads or services in the different trade magazines. But I don't know it well enough to say whether or not there is a market necessarily for that. And I don't know if Jen or Melissa can answer that, but it's certainly an interesting avenue to consider.
Yeah, I would agree. It is an interesting avenue, and I think it really depends on where you want to go with it and what you want to do, because really advertising and marketing can be very, very broad. And, if you're wanting to get into that for health and safety, then absolutely this would be something that would be beneficial. But if it was more non-health and safety, like the program is very health and safety focused and really gets into the different components that make up the health and safety management systems and hazards and that type of thing. So it really would depend on where you were hoping to go long term with it.
And if I can piggyback off of that, I mean, one thing that this person can consider would be to take one or two courses just to get a feel for health and safety to see if it's something that they might be interested in. So one of the courses I would consider would be COHS 508, which is Intro to Occupational Health and Safety, which gives you a broad overview of the different hazards, uh, general control measures, et cetera, just to give you, again, just introduction of occupational health and safety, get a sense of your interest rather than going for the full certificate at this moment in time. And that's for anybody actually who wants to get a sense of what this field is about. Taking COHS 508 and COHS 208, 208 being the law course, then you'll have an idea as to what is covered in occupational health and safety. And if you like it, then consider taking the other courses to complete the certificate.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. I know we had a few questions that came in about the intensive. So if we could just elaborate a little bit on that, what that involves and what are the options there.
Okay. I don't know if it's posted yet. Typically, the intensives are in spring, summer, usually May or June, if I recall correctly. And it's typically only two courses, which is COHS 208 and COHS 508 are the ones just because they're high demand courses. So 208 being the law course, 508 being Intro to Occupational Health and Safety. As Janet mentioned, it's 5 days straight. I forgot the hours. Is it 8 to 6 or something like that? It's very long days. And then you still have to do work afterwards in terms of reading, study for your midterms. And then there's also a final exam or final report to complete in that. So when they say intensive, it literally is a very intensive course.
And the other thing I'll just add on that is the intensive weeks are in person. So you do physically go for the week to the classes. And yes, they are long days, typically 9 to 5, plus homework in the evenings as well, Monday to Friday.
Hence the name intensives. But thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, so next question is regarding the job market. So I know it's a big, broad question. Maybe all of you can touch a little bit on that. Is after completing the courses or the certificates, what is the job market like?
Right now, it's a bit challenging because we're in an economic climate where a lot of companies are a bit hesitant to expand their operations at this moment in time because of the geopolitical issues. Having said that, there are still jobs that I see on LinkedIn or that come into my inbox related to health and safety positions, so it's still available. Certain industries are always looking for folks because they need them, like the mining and construction industry. So they're there. It's just maybe not as prevalent as it used to be, maybe even a couple of years ago. But I'll ask Janet and Melissa to chime in as well.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that, Chen. And yeah, I think the good thing about health and safety, as I said, is you're always going to need health and safety people, regardless of the industry. And it doesn't matter what company or industry you're interested in. Everyone has health and safety that has human beings working for them because it's a requirement. So that is the one nice thing about health and safety is that I believe it's always going to be needed and that you're always going to need people. And I think more and more employers are raising the bar and wanting to get individuals who have the certifications or designations behind their names to support the work that they are doing. So there is certainly value in getting the education and getting the certifications because it does really speak to your knowledge.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of Janet as well, having worked in the field for 12 years, my plus 12 years, I'm even seeing like that our company is growing and we're looking for more health and safety individuals. I mean, not always, but we are seeing that field grow. And I think now that you know, we're more proactive than reactive in health and safety, which is what we want to be. I think, as Jana said, companies are really seeing the value in health and safety. And, number one, making sure that their workers go home the same way they came to work. And then obviously, like, there is a financial aspect of it as well, and making sure, seeing, we don't want to pay all these fines, et cetera, to the Ministry of Labor. And as Chen mentioned, I do really see a lot of jobs in mining and construction as well, in health and safety, because I kind of find those specific industries are growing and we're seeing a lot of new construction. But the value of health and safety, I think, will always be there. So this is a really great field to get into.
Love that. Thank you so much, Janet, Lewis, and Chan, for that. So, next question, more questions regarding how it can help people advance, right? The next question is from Sandra. Thank you for your question, Sandra. And Sandra wants to know, would you meet the BCRSP and CRSP education requirements if you only take the Advanced Management Certificate and the Leadership Certificate?
No, unfortunately not. You do need the educational requirements through all three certificates. Having said that, if you want to verify, you should talk to BCRSP directly because we're not affiliated with that. They are the ones that administer the CRSP exams. It's just that in general, in order to meet the educational requirements, you need to complete all three certificates. There may be some flexibility depending on what type of background you bring, but based on the accreditation requirements, you do need the three certificates in order to challenge a CRSP. But again, speak to BCRSP directly, and they might be able to provide guidance specific to your situation.
One thing I'll just jump in and add to that and 1000% check with BCRSP to double check. In my situation, because I had a BA in a non-occupational health and safety area, I had it in business and psychology. In order for me to meet the education requirement to be able to challenge the CRSP exam, I did need the certificate program, but only the one certificate program. But again, you have to check. It could also be with the timing of when my first degree was, which was back in 1999, which was a while ago. But certainly ask those questions and clarify that. But that's in my personal situation, what I had to do to meet the requirement.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that and adding that to the answer. So I know AI is always a hot topic in our info sessions, and I just want to get to the question that asked about integration of AI or mechanic replacing general labor. It's currently an area of concern in the future. Would safety professional be reduced or replaced by AI for risk assessments and et cetera? And what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so I can start on that. AI is definitely here. We can't deny that. And, it's certainly going to be a tool. And that's how I look at it is it's a tool that's going to further enhance what we can do, and certainly help us, especially from a risk assessment and from a data and analytics perspective. However, you're still always going to need that human component to do the verification piece, especially when it has to do with regulations and legislation and that type of thing. AI is not perfect. And we know that. So I honestly see it as being a tool to enhance, not to replace.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I think the other thing that people should be aware of is that every workplace and every situation varies, even though it could be two construction workplaces, but what's going on in that workplace may vary. And AI doesn't have the capability to distinguish that. And that's where the human element comes in of having that um, uh, knowledge that of the workplace in its intimate detail to help with the investigative aspects or the assessment pieces that is really valuable to do an accurate review of the hazards or the risks associated with a process or a task.
Yeah, and just to add to what Janet and Chun had mentioned, I mean, in my day-to-day, right, we use AI as a tool, like Janet mentioned. And also there's a human side of health and safety, when specific situations happen where you can't use AI in those situations, whether it's a critical injury or, something sensitive happens in the workplace, where I think we're always going to need that human aspect for health and safety.
I love that. Yeah, it's always a tool for us to enhance and make us a little bit better. But we'll always need the human element in health and safety for sure. Next question is someone who's waiting an RN license. Are you able to advise which certificate they can start as a beginner? It would be the first one, right?
The OHS certificate for sure. And if did you say RN, the registered
Yeah,
nursing?
yeah,
Occupational health nursing. Someone asked about jobs. There are jobs as occupational health nurse guaranteed. That's one of the specialties that I used to work in healthcare that they just couldn't find enough individuals to fulfill an occupational health nursing role. So if you have that RN background or going for your RN, getting the health and safety knowledge through our certificate program will really set you on a course if you want to continue to pursue a career as an occupational health nurse.
beautiful. Love that. I know we're almost getting at time. We've got two more questions here that are open. The first one is, and I know we touched on this a little bit earlier, but maybe this person joined in a little bit late, so wouldn't hurt for us to go over it a little bit again. The How does the program include hands-on training, simulations, or are there any use of OHS software tools?
Yeah, so I can start on that one. So yeah, there are simulations for sure using software, which I was pretty impressed with, especially in the physical agents course. It was really neat to be able to use the simulations through computer programs, really. And the one I'm thinking of is it had to do with hearing loss, and you had to go around with a meter and test various areas of a restaurant to measure how loud it was, and then you had to make recommendations. That's just it in a nutshell. But it was really neat to be able to use those simulations, which is very real, and apply it to a situation and do the assignment that way. So there was a couple of examples of that where they would use simulations or case studies that you had to work with a group to use the information that you had learned through the course and then apply it to everyday living. So it's a little bit different. It's not your typical like hands-on, like where you're physically got your hands on something, but you're still getting the same concepts and you're still being able to apply into a real life situation.
Great. Okay, next question is, and this is the last question we have. So after this, oh, we got another one coming. So yeah, let's go get to the first one. What's the pay and career progression like? Is it possible to shift into a higher role? I'm guessing within the sector.
So from my experience, yes, I am currently a vice president of health and safety. When I started in health and safety, I was a director, but I did have previous leadership experience elsewhere in the organization. So really in the health and safety field, there's such a wide array of positions from entry level all the way up into leadership positions and into executive positions. And most large corporations, have that type of structure because, again, health and safety is a requirement really in any industry that you may be interested in getting into. The pay varies depending on the industry and depending on the organization, and there's obviously a number of different variables that go into that. But there certainly are definitely some good opportunities and good paying careers out there.
I know Melissa came off mute, so if you want to
Yeah,
chime
yeah,
in.
I could just kind of add to that too. Yeah, so just from my example, I obviously Jen and I have different career paths, but it's two good examples. So I started out entry level. I completed a health and safety program, went right into the field. So started out as more of a specialist role, and then progressed into a health and safety business partner role. So after, a few years of working for the same company. And then after 12 years, now I'm on a track. I'm actually in a mentorship program to move hopefully into a director role in the next few years. So it does progress. And like Janet said, pay is, different avenues, right? Depends on the company. Sometimes you will see higher pay in like more high risk environments. It just really depends on location and all those factors as well.
Yeah, I'm sure. Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure everybody always likes to hear that progression that you're always able to make in any field. So, giving that answer gives a lot of us that hope. So, thank you for sharing that. Now, while I start to do my closing remarks, we'll do one last poll. We sort of want to know, how did we do? How likely are you to take a course from one of our certificate programs? Just to provide feedback to our team and anyone that's involved or interested. Um, but yeah, as you answer that, as the poll is up, I wanted to thank all of our presenters and speakers for taking the time out of your day and all of you for attending the session. If you're interested in more information about all the certificates presented today, visit our website at continuing.torontomu.ca. If you have any other questions, you can contact me at mash.chaudhry@torontomu.ca. And you'll also receive a follow-up email with this information, the recorded session, as well as a survey within 24 to 48 hours. And on behalf of the Chang School, thank you so much and have a great rest of the day.